everybody. You're listening to and watching the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
And I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
And we are your hairy, heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy, heavy homo to listen in, or in this case, stream in. And it's Pride Month.
Yay!
Oh, Pride Month. That's about all I'll do.
Hey, Heyo! Okay.
So, and we're going to be talking about a number of appropriately themed books, let's put it that way, through tonight's show. We are coming to you a little bit later. We did have the first night of the January 6th hearings, and I was riveted. And this is all material I already knew apart from the female officer's testimony. And this country. What do you got there?
Who,
What?
me?
Who's got what?
Yeah, I thought you were bringing something out.
Oh, no, I was adjusting my lighting
Oh, okay.
so they can see my healthy skin, my Pride Month glow.
Mm-hmm.
Pride Month glow.
Pride Month glow. Pride Month glow!
It's either a Pride Month glow or the fact that I live in Arkansas and took the dogs on a walk. It's one of the. It could be both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm starting to get a tan. I don't know about this one up here. This one,
Mm-hmm.
the one with the SM initials.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a ghost.
Yeah, there's no.
Yeah,
tan.
there's no color change when it comes to anything below my neck.
Yeah.
The farmer tan is basically farmer looks like everybody else, and then without that, it just gets whiter and whiter as you go until you get to the translucent center.
Yeah.
Do
you burn though?
I do, which is why I'm super careful.
Okay.
And why I'm super white all the time.
Yeah, so I guess it's the Slavic 3/4 of me and not the Irish quarter that got the skin. So and Steve's seen many times. I usually have like really tan arms.
Yeah.
And then the rest is, sensible. Because
Somewhere down the line, I've got Greek and slightly more Native American than Elizabeth Warren. Just slightly. So I just get brown. It overcomes whatever Scottish I've got.
Yeah.
With all it brings out the colors of your tats, which is pretty cool. So
I run in booty shorts and nothing else, so that I like the sun.
Yeah, so we took a 2-week break. We're back with you.
Yep.
We are going to deviate again because we're going to have a show next week. So just hang on. June's a little strange this month for us. We are all going to be attending Heroes Con,
which is in 2 weeks, and we might have some appearances that week.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily be live. We'll figure all that out. Like I said to these guys, I don't want to work. I want to enjoy myself. Because I haven't had too many excursions like this. We had Baltimore. I've had a couple of local cons, New York Comic Con, and I have been a bit of a downer in certain circles because I am concerned about the variants and my first time on air travel, dealing with air travel in 3 years. But I'm super cautious, and hopefully the people around me will be that way too. I hope.
I think so.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
So there's various bits that we usually start off with the show. Sometimes it's news, sometimes it's our Geek Gets. I didn't see too much in the news lately. You did have,
really?
We've had like some premieres. Most notably, Ms. Marvel hit this morning. I'm sure we'll dedicate some bandwidth to that down the road. Some unfortunate additional news of Ezra Miller and his complicated personal life, and it's amazing because the Flash has had 2 test screenings and they went remarkably well.
Yeah.
So
he's a good actor, just not a good person.
At this point,
that's what I'm getting.
I am wondering if there's going to be discussions if it's financially feasible to reshoot with another actor.
At this stage, I mean, they almost had it complete.
Yeah, but you know,
it is complete.
When it's a VFX heavy show, sometimes it's easier to do that than it would be, you know, a conventional shoot. I forget the name of the movie, but they did have that one with Christopher Plummer replacing Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
John Paul Getty. I can't think. All is in the title. I can't think of the name of it. And there've been a couple of incidents, usually more for creative concerns, where one actor started and another actor completed. In the '80s, that happened a lot. You know, Michael J. Fox was a replacement cast in Back to the Future, and Jeff Daniels was a replacement cast in Purple Rose of Cairo. So, and that was after these films began shooting. So, you know, who knows? But it's a problem for Warner's. It definitely is. It's some strange shit. So.
I don't know what it is that Warner's tends to attract a lot of drama.
Yeah.
Or actors who are prone to a lot of drama. I think that seems to be pretty clear. So, drama and controversy. Yeah, I mean, otherwise...
We saw the first look at Shazam. So, you know, that looked great.
Oh, or Black Adam?
Yeah, Black Lightning. You know, Shazam, Black Lightning. It's the same thing. It's a one-man play.
Black Shazam. Wait a minute.
The other one, the other Shazam. Yeah. I've been monitoring the toys very closely.
Yes.
Not just for spoilers, just to see it's nice that there's a non-Batman film out there that's going to have some mass-market toys. And, you know, we didn't have that really with Suicide Squad, mainly because of the R rating. And Wonder Woman 84 did have Mattel toys come out on the Barbie line, but you know, with everything that had happened with that particular release, and you know, being a 2020 release, you know, the toys were out well before the film was, and just got lost in the shuffle. And I imagine a lot were just destroyed in the process. You know,
the scary thing about that is the toy lines have spoilers in them so often now, which is weird. Like, that's not something we really ever had to contend with before, but now there's like major spoilers in toy lines.
Yes.
Well, I think there always has been. I just think people are more concerned with it and more focused on it now.
Yeah.
Or you have more of a lead time because they're announcing the release of these figures 2 to 3 months in advance, usually way before the movie comes out. So then you're like, okay, well, you know, all that jazz about not releasing the preview until the absolute last minute, so you don't see everything that's in it. Well, too bad, we already got it.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
We've got a comment here from David. Did I miss the reason for the typo there, Caleb? And I just realized, looking over at your name, Caleb Intellectual Homosexual is missing an L.
That's the tongue-in-cheek.
This is the joke. So I was like, I didn't even, like, my brain just kind of was like, oh, okay. Yes, I get it now. But yeah, I mean, other than that, there hasn't been any crazy news. There's been some, you know, people in high places that have been fired and or you know, left their jobs recently, and the big streamers, but what effect that has on our stuff, we don't know. Same thing with J.J. Abrams' big project, one of his big projects at HBO Max getting the boot, which leaves kind of his other Dark Justice stuff kind of up in the air. But then again, it's been 3 years and nothing out of it anyway, so who knows?
You know, that whole Justice League Dark Justice thing, that has that is development held to the hilt, because at one point that was a feature film that was going to be helmed by Guillermo del Toro. I mean, that I think was the initial prospect of that was something like 10 years ago.
That would have been
a long time ago. Yeah,
that would have been amazing. But we did have we finally got a date for Sandman, the Netflix series, August 5th,
and an extended trailer.
Exactly, and a good trailer, and it looks pretty damn cool. And you know, it's absolutely going to be amazing. And I really hope that Netflix doesn't cancel it as soon as it airs, because that's been kind of their thing lately. So we'll see.
Not as it airs. That hasn't been the case.
No, right after it airs, because it's all going to drop, you know, same time. but I'm just hoping that it doesn't fall into
Haven't
the
they
Netflix
already
curse
started? Haven't they kind of like tongue in cheek said that they've already started shooting content for season 2? I think there's been a couple comments from Gaiman where it made it sound like they're already in process with that. I like situations like I like situations like the what we do is oh god, what we do is secret, and that's the name of a Germs album.
What we do in the shadows.
What we do in the shadows, where when they announced the season 4 date, they also announced they were picked up for seasons 5 and 6. We need more of that.
Yeah, like CW in the heyday from like 2019, where it's like, oh yeah, they're being renewed, and we got 3 more seasons.
You get a renewal, and you get a renewal.
It goes straight to series. We're not even going to bother with a pilot. Just go ahead. Yeah.
So in terms of Geek Gets, anybody get stuff other than myself? I think you did.
I actually got a few things.
Start with Caleb.
Okay, well, yeah, I'll jump in there. Steve got something now. I'm excited. This might be a first.
Yeah.
I just have one, and it's weird because it's been I missed the last show because of finals and all that fun stuff, or we just postponed it. Something happened. But my newest Geek Get is the newest album from Florence and the Machine, Dance Fever. I am a huge Florence fan, as are a lot of people. But it's this album is amazing. It is. Somebody said it was kind of a return to form. I don't think they deviated that far from form on their last album. I thought it was kind of par for the course, but this does have more, I think, lyrically and tonally. It is similar to works that they have done before, and it's just good. There are so many great songs on this album, so I've been spinning it nonstop, and that's my little Geek Get. Yeah,
the track that I'm in love with is Free.
Yeah,
on that album.
Huh.
Absolutely.
I like Choreomania for me. Yeah.
So there's a lot of great. There's a ton of great ones on there. Daffodil's got to be my favorite so far.
Yeah. Steve, you're usually the one that says I don't have anything, and it seems like you have something.
Yeah. So I went out to a McDonald's and I saw that they had already the Buzz Lightyear toys. So I was super excited. I was like, give me a toy, please. That's, ran up and said, give me the toy. So I got this wonderful toy from Buzz Lightyear. Somehow, I don't think he's in the movie. I mean, they could have told me that this is a Chip and Dale, like the movie toy, which would be semi-true because Sonic does make an appearance in that Disney Plus movie. But I got leftover toy crap, so thanks, McDonald's. But I do have some things that finally came in from my DCBS box that I was pretty excited to get, and one of them is here. Free Comic Book Day. Obviously you're talking about free comics. And Free Comic Book Day last month was great. There were some really good books out there. One of them that did get released was Dark Crisis number 0. Basically the preview issue. Well, I paid $10 for a special free issue with a complete, beautiful chromatic cover.
Just don't shine it directly in someone's eyes.
Yes, someone will go blind from it. But it is absolutely gorgeous. I believe Sam Sanchez did the cover, and it's beautiful. Really love it. So that was like, you know what? I don't feel bad paying $10 for it, just because it's really cool. And then finally, last year, or actually the year before, 2020, I had started getting 2000 AD prog packs, and obviously, with COVID, that absolutely destroyed the supply chain for the U.S. anyway of getting these books from the U.K. And thankfully, I finally got the last several prog packs. I think I was like short 4 from last year, and they all came at the same time. So just a ton of awesome 2000 AD reading that I'll eventually get to. I mean, we're looking at like 4 or 5 weeks per pack, because it does come out weekly. So just super excited about that, and I was just really happy to finally get them. So I just wanted to show them off. There you go. And that's it. That's all I got.
Very cool, very cool, very cool. it's kind of along the same lines as you with some of mine, because there was something I did get in my DCBS pack, and it's also a very similar situation to your 2000 AD situation, in that there was a lot of product that just didn't make it over over the oceans,
Yeah.
for various reasons. There are Mego 14-inch Black Adam and Shazam figures that apparently are still in a containment pod in Taiwan and have been there for over a year. So I'm not sure
Oh.
if I'll ever get those, but I did finally get, and this was an item ordered last year, the Peacemaker pop for Suicide Squad. They have announced a series of new Peacemaker pops, in connection with the HBO Max series, but this is from the Suicide Squad. So I finally got this. My King Shark, unfortunately, was canceled by Diamond, but I am holding out some hope that that Ratcatcher 2 will happen. And also, speaking of delays, there was a period where Mego had an arrangement with Topps, the card company, where they were going to distribute variants of upcoming figures, and these particular items that I have were ordered in September of 2021. They finally arrived at my doorstep, and that is variants of Ra's al Ghul and Green
Ooh,
Arrow.
nice.
You can see Green Arrow has the hood, and I think
And a goatee.
Ra's al Ghul has a very different attire in the regular figure. According to FedEx, the 8-inch Shazam and Black Adam will be here by then, and I think those were ordered even earlier, like August of 2021. But these did arrive, and also I just felt that mentioning it, because some of Steve's issues is he doesn't physically go out too much, and this was all by me at home. So sometimes the Geek Gets are just something completely online, but they eventually came. But we have been dealing with all these all these delays because of shipping issues, and it's nice to see that some stuff that at this point I really had no hope of actually happening for me, they're coming through. So it's nice to see that.
Yeah. I just wanted to say real quick, John Runyon has popped in. Comic Book Bears Assemble. Hi, John.
Hey, John. And John will also be at Heroes in 2 weeks.
He will.
Yeah.
2 more weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Like, I know there's a lot of stuff to be like hesitant about and everything, but I've been waiting on this for 3 years.
I have been the biggest Debbie Downer, particularly with Steve and John.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to be, and I'll be good. I'll be good.
I can't wait. Like I'm so excited. Like I've been waiting on this for 3. Like because I bought I'm getting to go this time because I bought my tickets in 2020. Like, in 2020 or 2019. Like I was supposed to go then, and then COVID hit, and so everything got like knocked out. So I've just been like waiting on this for 3 years now. 2 years. I'm giddy. I can't wait to see you guys, see everybody else. It is going.
And those some shows did happen in 2021, like Baltimore and New York Comic Con, and a version of C2E2 much later than it usually plays. Heroes was not. Heroes did not happen in 2021. So very happy. I'm really excited about seeing you guys.
I know. I can't wait.
I'm very happy my beard grew back for that too. So.
A lot of folks might not know because, like we've all been friends for years, and we've done this. I've been on part of the show, but we've never actually been in the same room. Like Bill, Steve, and Brian and I have. Like I've never met you guys in person, and we've been friends for years. Like so, like I am like vehemently giddy. Like it's palpable. I could just reach out and grab the giddies out of the air. To finally put my mitts on you guys.
The thing I was like, I'm just wondering like how long the first hug is going to last.
Oh, it's there's going to be like somebody counting.
Oh, I'm not a hugger.
I will drop.
I'm kidding.
I thought you were a pretty good hugger.
I'm a good hugger.
I'll just take my shirt off in the corner, and then he'll come running to me.
Yeah, that'll happen. Or you just like lean back. Do the
dude. All you would have to do is like this on a shirt, and he'd come running to you. Come on.
True.
Yeah. So it's something we have. I feel that we haven't been doing well enough on this show is promoting the works of our friends and our past guests. So we are going to be actively um, more at the forefront with that. So there's a couple of things we want to mention before we get into the show. One is a convention that's happening in New Jersey on July 9th and 10th. And this is a convention I've been associated with many times in the past, Garden State Comic Fest. And the gentlemen who run the show, Sal Zerzolo and Dave O'Hare, have been on the show, I think, more than once, actually. And unfortunately, due to a family situation, I'm not going to be able to attend, but I certainly wanted to get the word out about that show. And Steve, do you have a graphic ready or something else?
do. I actually will bring up their front page because there's a lot of great graphics. They've had a lot of wonderful art that's been made for or related to the Comic Fest. So let me pull it up right now if it'll let me. There we go. Okay, so I mean, it looks like there's going to be a lot of great guests here.
Yeah.
Several from Peacemaker.
Yeah, we have Freddie Stroma, we have Newt Lee, and we also have Steve Agee, John Hieronymus, who's going to be there. We have a variety of comic book artists and creators, old schools represented by people like Howard Chaykin and Walt and Louise Simonson and Ron Mars, and some of the newer breed is represented by people like Adriana Mello, who is doing fantastic work on Supergirl and actually is a Brazilian artist. Working on a Brazilian character, which is really nice to see. Charles Paul Wilson III is going to be there. Riley Brown is going to be there. So it's not just the old guard. There's many contemporary artists there. As you can see in this graphic for you Star Wars fans, the original Star Wars artist Greg Hildebrandt is going to be there. And for any pop aficionados of the 80s, you're just bringing her in there. Tiffany will be there. It's
my cat got excited at Tiffany.
Yeah.
LaFonley is a huge Tiffany fan, apparently.
And you also have a very big cosplay contingent that's involved with this particular show. And the one guest that I'm kicking myself that I can't see is Richard Comley, who was the creator of Captain Canuck. And looking back, it seems like Captain Canuck was my first indie comic, now that I think of it. So that's one person I really would have liked to have met. But you can get tickets and more information about the show at GardenStateComicFest.com. And also, if you're ready, Steve, it looks like these ladies will be there too. Yeah. These ladies will be there too.
What? These ladies? I don't have another... Oh, yes. Sorry, I was like, these ladies? What are you talking about? These ladies?
Well,
give me a second. Give me a second. I'm a little slow. Okay.
I'm the plant. I'm the Dorothy. And I'm the Rose. And we're the Golden Gaze.
Hello, everyone. It's the Dorothy from the Golden Gaze. We will be at Garden State Comic Fest, New Jersey's coolest Comic-Con, on July 9th and 10th at Menon Arena in Morristown, New Jersey. For more information, visit GardenStateComicFest.com. And thank you for being a friend.
We'll see you out on the road, bosom buddies. For all ticket information, visit thegoldengaze.net. Come on, girls. Da-da-da-da. Thank you for being a friend. Da-da-da-da. Travel down the road and back again. Bye, honey.
So you mentioned that Garden State Comic Fest also have a really cool Pride logo that they've used in the past. And again, Sal and Dave, thank you for everything. And I should have mentioned this is at the Menon Arena in Morristown, New Jersey, which is an ice hockey arena. And there have been times where they've actually had one of the ice hockey areas open during the con. And if you look on our page, there's a video of Mr. Miracle on ice with Harley Quinn, and it's really cool. And it's also
the
like
Dorothy-
fantastic to like sit down. If you saw the picture, you can sit down in any of the seats while the con's going on. Oh, for my fat old ass, that's like the best thing in the world.
The Dorothy in that trio looks really like that's good. That is good drag.
Yeah.
You know Tiffany's got to be looking at all this like Kate Bush action, going, "It's my time. It's my time."
That's for part 2. That's for part 2 of season 4.
Somehow I don't think Could Have Been
now.
will have the emotional resonance of a running up that hill. But I gotta tell you though, is that an amazing story or what?
It is. I love it.
Just incredible that I said the other day I did not have Kate Bush having a top 10 single in the U.S. in 2020 on my 2020
number one
card.
Number one
on Spotify Global,
Apple.
number 1 on iTunes, number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100, which is the premier chart, but who knows what it might be next week, because it's even translated to terrestrial radio play now.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But warranted. So.
Yeah. There are also a couple of Kickstarters we'd like to let you all know about. Some of these you may already know about and may have already contributed to, but I think it's important that we spotlight some of our former guests and some of our friends of the show. The first one, Steve, if you have it ready, I'd like to talk about tap studs first.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
Here we go.
Okay, and
so this is the
so
Kickstarter front page.
Kickstarter page. Tap Studs is from Sticky Graphic Novels, which is the premier publisher of wordless, gay character-based, sex-positive graphic novels. And Tap Studs itself is an oversized 80-page, adults-only graphic novel, hardcover with script and art by Dale Lazarov. If you look through our archives, you'll see our interview with Dale in the past. Sorry about that. With line work and colors by Dustin Craig. And a series of stories encompass Tap Studs. One is an Earth military envoy and a space Elizabethan king exchange pleasantries as part of their contractual negotiations, establishing relations through courtly manners and private ministrations. Another story involves a time traveler who enjoys men from different cultures and time periods. He stops in turn of the century Paris, and a dapper, beardy steampunk scientist shows up in his gaydar. And another story, Love Machines, must be taken to the homoerotic sex bot repairman shop as the locale. So if you would check that out, there's still, I believe, 26 days to go on that one. But you would be supporting, as Dale put it himself, bear adjacent graphic work. So there you go. There's the cover to Tap Studs. And if you also look at the incentives on there, there's a lot of other previously published works from Sticky that you can add to your campaign contribution. So please check that out. We'll have that link up on our page. And also we wanted to highlight another Kickstarter from John Westhoff. I do think John has had the most Kickstarters of anybody I know.
Probably.
He's a machine with this. And so as soon as you're ready with a graphic on that one, Steve, it's loading.
There we go.
And for this one, this is the Part-Time Comics Mini Comics double feature, which is a double dose of mini comics tribute to Magic the Gathering and the First Family of Springfield. I'm going to honor the redacted and the slyness of not actually mentioning the TV show's name that we did see on the Kickstarter page. I'm sure there's a very valid legal reason for that. But again, since John has started up Part-Time Comics as the spiritual successor to King Bone Press, they're back with their second volume of On the Stack, which is a big hit for them. Their mini comics tribute to Magic the Gathering, and the brand new Up and Let's Go, a comics tribute to the comics of Springfield. Now with this particular one, I don't know if it's changed, but when I checked just before we went on, there were 46 hours left to go. That's all that was left. And they were only $7 away from their goal.
Well, if you check this live screen right now, live as of 10:31 p.m., 46 hours left, and they are $27 over their goal, so they have hit their goal, which is excellent. Thank you so much, and you guys are awesome. I cannot wait to read these.
Yeah.
He's had so many. There's been so many great incentive covers, so many great other incentives. There's still 46 hours to back this, and get any or all of what they have to offer, because there's a lot of great stuff with this. So, very excited.
Yep. I need be one of the cool kids. Yeah,
I need to double check and make sure I actually back this. I'm trying to think, because I try to back most of the stuff, because we're good friends with John.
Yeah,
but there's so many of them that sometimes I lose track of what I've backed. So
I was in the exact same spot, because he's been promoting this pretty well. On whatever channels he usually does, and I was like, oh, that's good, John. And then I was there today. I was like, I didn't back this one, so I rectified that. But So John, it looks like you've had another successful Kickstarter, so congrats. Dale also met goal too, so so that's good to see. But for people who are creators that have been on the show or have some kind of presence in our orbit, please reach out to us, because we do want to be a little more
vocal.
Yeah. If you can't find a word, it should be vocal about projects that our friends and associates are involved with. So there you go. So because we 2 Kickstarters and a pretty cool con. So we're going to keep that up. And before we get going, I just wanted to say to Caleb, congratulations on the run of Southern Fried Geekery. I know this might not be the easiest decision that your crew had to make, but you have a lot to be proud of over what you've done.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So for those of you who are listening and don't know, we decided to go ahead and put Southern Fried Geekery to bed. That's been Craig and my. We've had several co-hosts on, Jerry, Sean, and Matt most recently, but that's been Craig and I's baby for the last 4 years. And we just got together and we decided, hey, we're all super busy. It's become, like, time-wise, it's become really hard for us to all get together and make sure we can do it. It takes a lot to do a podcast. Plus ours, we all meet up every week, so we have to be physically in the room and stuff. We did it online during COVID, but we decided, hey, like, this part of being in the same room is why we do this. So it was a lot. So we had 231 episodes. We got to talk to some great people. We got to interview all kinds of really cool creators. I got to do a panel and interview Howard Chaykin, which is like one of the highlights of my life. That curmudgeonly old man, I love him. Believe it or not, it really wasn't that hard of a decision to make, because Craig and I both said we're not going to do it without one another, and so we both were like, hey, it's time. So we put it to bed, but very proud of the work that we did, and I appreciate you saying that means a lot, because you're one of the people that made me want to get into podcasting. So
no.
So it's your fault.
So I just aborted your grand cast.
I do have to say I did enjoy listening to SFG myself. I listened to you guys when you still had Sean and Jerry on before Jerry moved coasts and Sean moved on to other things, and of course when you brought Matt on. So I've been there through the years, so I really enjoyed it. Listening to you guys and the format that you guys had, which is very different from ours. So, but all those episodes are archived, and people can go back and listen to them, because there's a lot of good reviews and comic talk on there.
And they're on our YouTube page too. So.
Oh, cool. Also, with that, you are planning to do one more episode?
We're talking about it. We don't have anything worked out. We're giving it some time. We're not in a rush. It depends on if we can or not. So I think we would all like to. So we'll see.
Yeah, so it's sort of like our 10th anniversary episode.
Someday.
Yeah, someday we'll get to that. Maybe Hero. Maybe that's where we can do Heroes, something ish. Yeah, we'll figure it out. All right. We've been at this 34 minutes and 59 seconds, and we have yet to talk about comics, so let's start doing that. Steve, tell us about something you're reading that you are enjoying.
So, every month I have a queer book club, and it's just been really great. We've actually been doing it, my husband and I, since we moved to Winston-Salem back in 2017. I think it started with January of 2018. And we've been going every month that we can since then, and it's been a pretty great group of people. But one of the benefits there is that it's co-sponsored by Bookmarks, which is one of our independent bookstores here in Winston. And one of the things I love about it is that they have a really good graphic novel section and a staff that really appreciates how important graphic novels are to literature, the contribution that it makes, as well as having a really good curating process. So they tend to have a lot of really interesting indie books, some of the big titles, but then also a lot of queer titles too. So of course we have our queer book meeting. Afterwards we usually, descend upon Bookmarks and start wandering through the store. And I always make a beeline for the graphic novel section. And this was one of the latest ones that I saw there. Queer as All Get Out by Shelby Criswell. And Shelby Criswell, for some of you, might recognize the name. They are a contributor to the Nib. They've done comics work for the Nib for a while, and some other publications as well, online and in print. And they decided that they wanted to write a book, not so much about themselves, although they are part of the story that's being told in this book, but also about 10 particular figures, queer figures, through history that have had an influence on them, either on how they see themselves or just generally, their understanding of queer history and queer culture. They write about and draw about some very interesting figures throughout history that some I didn't know about. A few I had heard about, Nancy Cardenas, I knew about, Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld, etc. But there are some interesting other ones in here that brand new to me, like Simon Nicoli, who's a South African activist, Wiwa, who was a Zuni. I guess the equivalent would be Two-Spirit, but it's in Zuni language it's Lamana, which is the equivalent of someone who is born with one sex, but contributes to the family, to the tribe, with the same actions and responsibilities and presentation as another sex. Just really, really interesting, great stories here, some wonderful history. One of the more interesting ones, Dr. Polly Murray. Some of you may have heard of them as well. They're assigned female at birth, but essentially presented more or less non-binary throughout their lives. Before that was really a term, and they were an extremely active participant and one of the main forces behind the civil rights movement in the 60s. Was a very strong activist. Also eventually became an Episcopal minister when they started allowing women to become ministers in the U.S. Episcopal faith. So it is just very fascinating. Just incredible life there. And then also Wilmer Broadaxe, Broadnax, also known as Little Axe, basically presented as male his entire life, throughout the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, was a pretty well-known voice in the gospel circuit. Did a lot of singing groups throughout the 50s and 60s. Obviously went down in popularity when rock and roll took over, but was a name that everybody knew as a man through most of his life. But then when he was 72, got into an accident chasing down his girlfriend in a car in Philadelphia, smashed into her car because he saw her with some other man, and she ended up stabbing him multiple times. So very, lots of drama here. It's Philly drama. Come on. Chris Cummins would agree. He's probably seen that all the time. But when he was rushed to the hospital, the staff discovered that, biologically he was female. And this has never, they had never known that. So, just a very interesting thing that a man had lived his life 100% in full view publicly as a man, assigned female at birth. Was very, in a lot of heterosexual relationships with other women. So it's just very interesting. With that, and then also, of course, Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld, who essentially is the father of the gender reassignment surgery, had created the Hirschfeld Institute in the early 1900s, was the person to coin the term transvestite, which I know is very outdated, but, was pretty revolutionary back in 1911. So just very, very interesting stuff. There are some editing errors, just for your nitpicky readers out there, so, ignore those if you can, but otherwise a wonderful read.
I'm sure the intellectual homosexuals will pick up on those.
It is possible, because I read it right away. I'm like, wait a minute, dates? There's certain things, but, the heart is there. This is just a wonderful read. The art is just so much fun. And you really get to know Shelby, as well as all these figures throughout history. So, highly recommend it. It's put out by Street Noise publications. I'm not familiar with them, but they are another indie publisher. So if you can find it in your store, great. If you can't, you can always order it. So queer as all get out.
All right, cool. Okay, Caleb, over to you. What's something you're reading that you're digging?
Well, to keep in line with the theme, it is Pride Month, so I wanted to talk about a queer themed book. I think that's going to be kind of a running theme.
I think so tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if there was a pantheon of queer creators in comics, and not that we're going to take time to label them all, because there's a lot and it'd be hard to do, but if there was a pantheon, Howard Cruz has to be in that top 10, possibly top 5 list of queer creators, right? For me, he absolutely is. I love the work of Howard Cruz. This is one of my favorite comics of all time, but in general, that is Stuck Rubber Baby is. It's not indicative of the vast umbrella of his work, right? Like, he did a lot more strip work than he did these kind of graphic novels. So to kind of follow up on what Steve did, I actually want to talk about some nonfiction work that came out, except this is not a comic. This is the now Eisner-nominated work, The Life and Comics of Howard Cruz, written by Andrew J. Kunka, published by Rutgers University Press. I jumped at this the minute I knew it existed, and I have to give a good a shout out to our good friend Zach Crucy, also Eisner nominated. His book is nominated in the same category as this book for the Eisners this year, who turned me on to this. Because I loved Zach's book so much, even before the Eisners came out, he reached out and said, hey, if you like that, then try this, which is why it's good to have friends. This book kind of walks you through the career of Howard Cruz. They talk about some of his upbringing, which if you're familiar with Stuck Rubber Baby, there's a lot of that is semi-biographical, semi-autobiographical, I should say. But it's not completely. So they do talk about his upbringing, his his coming out experience, or at least his internalization of his coming out experience. Part of which I really enjoy learning about, because he's a preacher's kid from Alabama. I'm a gay preacher's kid from Arkansas, so there's some overlap there. It really is, in a large part, reading about a lot of my own history and some of his fears and some of the acceptance issues that went into that was great. But it gets into some more of his work, and his work in books like his underground comics, but really his work for the Advocate. He had strips in there. Playboy, he had strips in there. In his entire career, he did a ton of work that was very subversive. And it was not only subversive for the magazines and stuff he was appearing in, it would even go on to be subversive in gay culture, where he would kind of shine a reflection back on a subgenre, which most of the time subversive comics, especially in this era, was just shining a mirror on mainstream culture at large. He was part of a niche group, and he was shining a mirror up to it and saying, hey, here's some things that we need to talk about as well. And so it's fascinating to read about his life, his partner of almost 40 years, how he met, how they met, how they lived together, how he thought about himself as a gay man, how he thought about himself as an elder gay man before he passed away. This book was actually being written when Howard Cruz died. They were actually, Andrew Kunka was supposed to do a big interview with him that would have completely changed the way this book was formed. if he had have been able to get that interview. Unfortunately, they were not able to get that interview because Howard Cruz was diagnosed with cancer, and was very optimistic for a long time. But when he went downhill fast. And so it's a fascinating look into his life. I was very interested to find out because of the subversive nature of his work. He deals a lot in parody. And he dealt a lot with parody of a very sexual orientative nature. And so I always assumed that his biggest legal issues were going to be with the pre-comics code and the issue of what is classified as the word's escaping me now. Censored, what needs to be censored. But it wasn't. It wasn't those issues really with his queer themes that he battled so much with. It was because he was doing parodies, and that's actually what got some of his biggest strips and the things that he loved the most canceled from the magazines. I hate that word now because everybody attributes it with cancel culture. That's not what we're talking about. It's what scared the magazines that he was working for, because Howard was very cool. If you read books like Stuck Rubber Baby, Howard's style is like, it when you see it after you look at it for a little bit. It's very much Howard Cruz. But when he did his parody strips, Howard Cruz was incredibly talented he was basically an artistic mockingbird. He could take, if you were drawing Little Lulu, he could take and make it look exactly like Little Lulu. He could make things look exactly like Harvey Kurtzman. If he was going to draw Peanuts or whatever, he could make it look so much like the original material that the publishers actually got scared after a case, and the lawyer in me got really excited. Anytime I see something versus somebody else, Walt Disney, the company, and I think in 1983 or somewhere around that, they actually sued a group of underground cartoonists for copyright infringement and trademark infringement on this thing called the Air Pirates Funnies, because they were so
Mickey and the Air Pirates.
Yeah. They were so close to the original material that it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, hey, look, this does not fall under parody. It's way too close. And these are underground comics. These aren't people with a lot of money. And even when this happened, I think it was the early 80s. Again, I'd have to go double check that. But Disney was Disney, right? Like, they were a behemoth, even at that time. And so this scared your companies that were doing parody work, like Playboy, like The Advocate, like the work that was hiring Cruz. And so it kind of cut him off at the knees, so to speak. He lost a lot of work, lost a lot of business, lost a lot of his livelihood because he couldn't continue in that vein. So it was a double-edged sword, because he would go on to do books like Stuck Rubber Baby. He would get into more of the graphic novel work, and he would start to invent his own characters and do his own thing and go back and flesh out characters that he had invented before. He would go on to, he'd pull from the works that he did in gay comics, and he would revitalize those, which, like I said, double-edged sword, because then we got more original Howard Cruz that wasn't parody with the same type of biting satirical nature that he did so well. So I thought that was phenomenal. But also, if you don't know the way that Howard Cruz came out as a professional gay man, it's pretty phenomenal, because somebody actually, it was based off of some work that he did while he was still closeted, where he had a gay character. He came out, he brought one of his characters out as gay in this ongoing strip that he was doing. And somebody wrote in and they essentially complained. And I want to read, just if I can, a snippet of his response to that. And this was literally him coming out. This was his come out moment. This was him letting everybody know that he was a member of our community. He said, as a gay artist, I think I have a unique perspective to offer on the human condition. This particular greeting card that I made is a fleeting, ephemeral bit of my perspective, but I think such small things leave a beneficial residue. The small affirmations of brotherhood and sisterhood are true substance of existence. Politics is only the packaging. Unfortunately, our lives and happiness are ruled so ruthlessly by the packaging that political action becomes vital and worthwhile, but political attitudes can smother what they intend to protect. Freeze out the humanness of the individual's laughter, and the gay culture will suffer, along with the larger culture, from the dead-end shallowness. So I think that is a very fitting paragraph, a very fitting time for this month, because it encompasses, we constantly questions like, why do you need Pride Month? There's your answer. But we also see questions in our own community about what Pride Month means and the way that you should look at Pride Month and what activism means and the way that we should go about presenting ourselves as a community, because we're not a monolithic community. There's your answer. And it was written in the 70s, I think 1977. So I was fascinated by this. If you get a chance, it's a biography. It's a biography put out by Rutgers University Press. It's a little dry, like not gonna lie, but for people who tend to like intellectual literature, who like academic style literature, I think that you will eat this up. Like, there's not a plot to this. There's no adventure. I mean, other than the adventures of this man's life, but it is a phenomenal read. Go check it out. Put it on your shelf. It is well worthwhile. And if you don't have it, get yourself a copy of Stuck Rubber Baby, because you need it.
Yeah.
You need it in your life.
With Stuck Rubber Baby, I believe they are between printings right now, and I believe there's some renegotiation between DC and his estate. But apparently there's going to be something soon. I don't think it's going to leave. I'm not sure, but that's the last rumbling I heard about that.
They speak a little bit about that in the book, because it's the 25th anniversry or the 30th anniversary.
Yeah, I got the 25th anniversary. Did they mention
who brought him to DC? Well, at the time, I think it was Paradox. I think it first came out on the Paradox or the Piranha Press, one of DC's indie labels. Do they mention that in the book?
They do. I finished reading this about a month and a half ago, so it's not fresh on my brain. But they do talk about who brought him in and who kind of opened the door to Vertigo, which is what it would go on to be. So they talk about him broaching into mainstream comics, the things that he liked about it, the people that he liked about it. But they also talk about how he kind of walked it back after time and was like, I just don't fit in that world. I'm more of an underground guy, like the comics are the next kind of guy.
But it was an evergreen seller for a long time, and the gentleman who actually coordinated that was someone named Neil Posner. If you look at his comic credits, you won't see too much, but he was DC's effectively DC's art director for a long time, and the former partner of Phil Jimenez.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, and had like an amazing career also as an album designer. For albums like the Kinks, Give the People What They Want, and there's a lot of content, in mainstream in DC mainstream comics that you have him to thank for. He's kind of one of the unsung heroes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of that, yeah.
And I do want to say, I want to thank Andrew Kunka for the way that he orchestrated this book and designed it. Not only because they put it together, but it's so the cool thing about this book, and he was able to do this because Howard Cruz mostly wrote shorts, right? Like that was what he did. He wrote short strips and short snippets to go in anthologies. So he was able to make this book part, treatise, but also part comic. So he reprinted in their entirety a ton of Howard's works from the anthologies, and so you get. Half of the book or a quarter of the book is just comics. It's just comics work. So it's those things that I've never seen reprinted anywhere before. So excellent stuff. And he was able to get a lot of help from Eddie, who was Howard's partner of a long time. Very much his legacy was respected in this.
Yeah. I need to see
one to put. David Toby's CBB Comic Bear says, "Hi, gay." Yeah, thanks, David.
And I think it's important that you note in your discussion that there is a very big difference between academic press biography and mass market publishing biography. Yeah. Dryness is something that unfortunately works its way in there at points, but I'm really fascinated by this book, and I have a friend who works for Rutgers Press, so I'll see if I can go, because they can be pricey too. The academic books can be really pricey, and it's not like you're going to see them at sell-through at being at Barnes and Noble eventually. So
I think this was 25.
That's not too bad. Yeah, but it's also paperback. Yeah. So sometimes you get and you are stuck with hardcover is the only option.
Right.
So
$50 hardcover.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to only print it once, go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So the book that I want to talk about as and this is surprising because we had a conversation earlier today. Did we cover this book? And we actually didn't. Caleb had it as a Wolf of the Week because of the notoriety that it was achieving for a point. And the book that I want going to talk about, I finally got to Genderqueer, a memoir by Maya Kababi, and I would say apart from Mouse naturally, and maybe what's the name of that book? The Color of Earth. I don't think any other graphic novel has been the point of controversy as much in the current wave of book bannings from libraries.
Yeah.
From libraries. So, in a nutshell, Maya is a non-binary queer author, and they illustrated this, and "they" comes with a problem because um, those are not pronouns that Maya currently uses. They use the em ear pronouns. And there's actually a very funny little sequence in the book where Maya's introducing these pronouns to her family, and one of the cousins says, "Oh, we are so gonna fuck this up." Um, but that kind of provides the window for uh, the terrain that this book covers. And I was really surprised by this book. I was really surprised because I was expecting one thing and I got something else. Um, so, through this book, Maya has it's autobiographical memoir about asexual journey. I guess that's the only way to say it. And I know, Steve, you can contribute to this book as well because I know you recently read it. But it was. This is going to be a weird analogy, but I'm still going to make it because I think it's on target. In the '80s, and I know Caleb's a youngin, Steve's a little older, but still we're not of the same generation. In the late 1980s, Martin Scorsese directed a version of what was a controversial book and an even more controversial movie of The Last Temptation of Christ. Are you guys aware of this film?
I've never seen it, but yeah, I know it
Okay, so
exists. I know some of the history of the controversy.
yeah, yeah. So it's a very controversial film because of depictions of what um, Christ basically was presented with, and it was a path that he didn't choose at the time of his crucifixion. And uh, as somebody who grew up Catholic, it stunned me that the Catholic Church was not embracing this film instead of and that they were attacking it, because from my perspective it was one of the most effective um, declarations of faith that I've ever encountered. And if there were more works like this, I may have stayed a bit more religious as I grew older. I and People who were just focused on the venal aspects of the storyline missed the point completely. And this is kind of in this terrain because in a lot of ways this is a very, very mainstream book. If you look at it through those sort of eyes, it's and for particularly teenagers who are exploring their sexuality and not sure where they fit in. And even if you're straight, gay, trans at this point, there's something for you to latch onto. And it's an honest discussion about that exploration. It's very often funny. There's some very strange cameos in here. Probably the unexpected fandom of One Direction. I was not expecting that, but a really touching exploration um, about Maya's journey and things I never considered of someone who does lead, initially identifying as well. I don't even know if initially, because H seemed to travel the gauntlet and the spectrum sexual identity and sexual exploration. A lot of the book bannings have been focused on what is a very brief section in the book about imagining what gay sex is like between two men. But in identifying as non-binary, there's a lot that as a gay man I could latch onto. There was a lot I can imagine a gay woman would latch onto. A lot that straight people who are just exploring where they fit and what sexuality actually is. uh, this is a book I really think people should embrace and read because it works on so many different levels, and even very difficult conversations. One conversation in here is with an older lesbian aunt of the writer, and the aunt having a problem with a lot of the non-binary identifications because she feels in some ways that it's misogynistic, and it's not dismissed. The exploration of it is not didactic. There's a lot of potency to how that's addressed, and I just really enjoyed this book. And I didn't even know I had this because when we brought it up, and because of the notoriety that it's received, it's a little more it's a type of book that's on someone's radar a bit more. And it turned out that I had a copy over there, and it says to Bill, enjoy, and my dad's name is Bill too, Maya. So apparently, I picked this up at BookCon in 2019, and it just didn't register. And man, I'm glad I went over to my uh, racks over there and found this because it was a very rewarding read. I think that's the word I would use more than any, is rewarding. Steve, I know you very recently read this, so if there's anything you can contribute.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I mentioned the queer book club that I'm part of, and this was one of the books that we absolutely had to have on our list this year. And, everybody was into it. We actually had a pretty sizable group, a couple of whom were either non-binary or identified as trans. And so this was a very interesting book for me because I feel I'm pretty secure in understanding my gender expression, my sexuality, and reading the journey of somebody who doesn't have that type of certainty, and from a very young age has to go through this, the general, experiences that a lot of people have and take for granted, understanding that that's not really how A sees it. And themselves. Spivak programs are kind of hard because I always want to put something else in there. But that conversation, and it's a very short part of the book, and I actually thought, and I brought this up in the group discussion, that it could have been expanded upon because it is a very interesting argument. It's basically the aunt is espousing the general TERF, trans exclusionary radical feminist idea, or
in some ways, in the way that it's presented, it's a lot more heteronormative.
Exactly,
and that does what it's supposed to do. It made me think.
Mm-hmm. And that was very interesting. But also the other aspect of it too. Maya is more asexual, so that was something that again I don't have a lot of personal experience with, and it was very interesting to kind of hear that, to understand that journey. Like you said, there's a lot of sexual exploration.
Is sexual.
Yeah.
I had a much better understanding of that as we went along, and even things that I don't want to say horrifying, but the complications he went through with the Pap smear. I mean, that is. That was gut wrenching, and it's like that's kind of like a very very basic procedure, and the way that was presented was something that really got to me in the way that it was depicted.
I don't know if I can even
and just conversations that people like this need to have, and it was a very affecting book.
Yeah, that part was probably one of the more impactful, and I think I can show this because this doesn't really, it's not very explicit, but feeling that way with just what is considered a standard female exam, and how that made the M feel. We've got a couple comments here again from David. With deeply affecting memoir, and then definitely illustrates aspects of dysphoria in a way that cis people can digest and comprehend the kind of harm that misgendering people actually does. And I agree with that as a cisgender male.
And just in terms of memoirs, I would love to get these two people talking.
Oh yeah,
I would love to get these two people talking.
What Maya had on it, what Maya had on her bookshelf, like all the books, like I was geeking out with a couple friends of mine and my husband going like, oh that book, oh yeah, that book,
and also just the way he grew up, and just really hit the jackpot with the parents that he had. Yeah, really, because and you feel that all through the book, and you know that that's not the case for many people.
Yeah,
and
very true.
And I just, the tone was so different than what I was expecting, and the moments that are funny are very funny in it. So really, I wish I did. I mean, like, to the point I didn't even know I had this. And also, the version I have was from the original publisher, Lion Forge. If people are looking for it, it's now with Oni Press.
Yeah, I have the Oni.
So, yep,
and Oni
it's now with Oni Press. And I think a big reason for that is because of Oni's distribution in many areas with Simon & Schuster.
Yeah.
So should be fairly easy. Now, Caleb, since it was your Woof of the Week, have you gotten to reading it yet?
I haven't.
You have something else to do, so I would rather you wait till August.
It's on my it's somewhere back there in that closet that I have full of books that I've picked up over the last 3 or 4 years. I keep meaning to read. But it will get read sooner rather than later, especially after this, because I don't know that I knew what to expect. I was kind of fascinated by listening to you talk about it. I've only read the synopsis, and I think I read the synopsis when it was my Woof of the Week, and I picked it up because of all the controversy that it got, because I wanted to check it out. And I think it does need to be, anytime a book like this, anytime a book pisses somebody off, I think it's worth looking at. Like, why is this making so many people legitimately? And I don't mean this as kind of a like I like causing problems kind of way. No, like if a book is making waves, I think that like what is causing the controversy. And I think that those things need to be unpacked and explored to figure out the greater nuances of where we're at. And it tells you a lot about where we're at as a country when you start seeing the issues that people have. One of the things I love about the book that you were describing is the way that it makes itself. It has a guide rail for everyone. It gives everyone a chance to step up. Look, I'm bi. Like, I've been with the same man for 10 years, but some of that fluidity and stuff goes into sexuality. And it's where do we fit in, because we don't fit into one cup or the other. And so there's so much of that is awkward. And so this book, even as something as when we think about ace, it's a little bit more nuanced than bisexuality. Not even considering the sexual acts involved with, but we tend to think you're either gay, bi, or a lesbian or trans, but there's so many things that are in the spectrum. But if you can understand one of the more, and I'm not saying being bisexual is simple, life is complicated as fuck for everybody, but if you can understand one of these more better known and better studied and better spoken about variants of the different spectrum of the LGBTQ plus community, then that can help you figure out and help you to quote unquote relate to other individuals. So I can't wait to actually dive into this and look at what he has to offer. Because it's got to be a fascinating read.
And the moment that for me really where I started to understand her was when they covered, I don't want to be someone's girlfriend. I also don't want to be someone's boyfriend.
Right.
And from there, for me as a reader, pieces fell into place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a particular thing for me that's upsetting about the banned book phenomenon when it is a work that is non-confrontational. This is a very inviting work.
Well,
and
but
that people cannot pick up on that is just, it's just sad. It's really sad.
So here's the thing with that. I think they can pick up on that, and that's the problem. That's why the book has to be banned, because it's not confrontational. It does allow you a chance to stop and think. The people that want this book banned don't want there to be another option.
Yeah.
They want one. They have one vision for how you should be. One, and that is a very specific thing. And if the more people that understand the spectrum, the more people that understand the options, the more people that understand themselves or understand that they don't have to be scared of themselves, then the more people are coming out on this various end of the spectrum. That puts their worldview in the crosshairs. That puts their worldview on the endangered species list, and it should be. But that's why that they have the issue with it, not because of the argument that it entails, but because it provides an option and because it's an educational tool. They want to stifle out the educational tool because it's a tool, not because of what it does. That's why these things get banned.
Okay, we are at 11:11. Oh, that's a Rufus Wainwright song, if people don't know. And we have to keep moving. So we do have a second book. So I think we have enough time to discuss them rather quickly. So, Steve, why don't you take the reins with what second book you have in your hands that you're enjoying?
Well, and I think this is definitely a quick book at first glance. So, for the recommendation, and this is the book Jessica Campbell's Rave, or Rave by Jessica Campbell. It is it's an interesting book told about a teenage girl who is being raised in a very evangelical church and very evangelical Christian family and culture, who goes to a public school, and there she is by chance in a science class thrown together with another girl named Mariah, who is a Wiccan. The usual sort of rumors about teenagers that happen in high school. Oh, she's a witch, and she's like super into sex. She's kind of slutty. Blah blah blah. Lauren, the main character, ends up going to her house to work on this project, and ends up basically falling in love with her. And so not only is she experiencing, a person outside of her family, outside of her faith, who she's been told to fear and hate, but she also is discovering about herself that she is a lesbian, that she has, or at least, may be a lesbian, and that she's fallen in love with this girl. And they do the usual teenage cute, she goes over to her house as a sleepover when her mom's not home, and, they make out a lot and they spend a lot of time together. But of course, as time goes on, there's only so much you can do when you've got the pressures of your family and this other culture that she's part of, the evangelical group culture, kind of, pulling her away, and at the same time, her own concerns and just fear of herself is also helping to pull her away from Mariah. And the book unfortunately does end on a very big down note. Not to scare anybody away from it. I think you should make your own decisions when you read it, but a lot of stories we like to look for a happy ending or an uplifting ending, or maybe a very open ending. This one, not so much. There is some openness here, but sometimes it is important to read stories like this, because not everybody gets a happy ending. I really like this book. It is part of Drawn and Quarterly's publication group, so it is very Canadian. So if you get conniptions when you see honor color spelled with a U, get over it. But it's a great book, and Jessica Campbell, she's done some other contributions, but this I think is her first. Well, it actually isn't. It's one of I guess maybe her third independent work that she drew and wrote herself. So, but yeah, just published, Rave by Drawn and Quarterly, written and drawn by Jessica Campbell.
Nice. All right, over to Caleb. Caleb, tell us about a second book that you're enjoying.
So I'm going for a theme on this fine evening, a little bit biographical and very gay. And to that end, it's going to be a little bit different from my last book, which was prose, a little dry. This one is lots of comics and just slippy, sloppy wet. And that's because it is Rockstar and Soft Boy by my friend and actually more your friend than mine, but it's written and drawn
our friend
by Cena Grace. I say he's more your friend than mine. I've only actually got to meet Cena one time, and that was when y'all were getting ready to do a show with Cena on it. We were using my computer to run things to do it, but I couldn't be on the show, so I said, and I kind of fanboyed the hell out for a second and forgot who I was, and maybe a little bit embarrassed myself. So, and to that end, Cena hadn't been on since, so I hope I didn't ruin anything. We gotta fix that. But this book is published by Image Comics. It came out earlier last year, and it's a little bit. I say it's a little bit biographical, not in the sense like Cena doesn't name himself in this book, but if you've seen what Cena looks like, and if you know who Cena is, if you follow Cena on the socials, there's a lot of Cena in this book. This book takes place in the middle of Hollywood. It features these two roommates who are just doing all kinds of stuff. One of them is a traveling, I think he's a guitarist or a keyboardist in the band. The other one is a narrative designer for video games, and they live together. They have a completely platonic friendship. They're just having fun, kicking it. And then the rock star, who very much embodies that thing, likes to party, goes out, has fun, finds a new person to bring home all the time, just is enjoying the beautiful hedonism that life can be. Has a light bulb moment and realizes that his roommate, his bestie, the platonic love of his life, has not gotten laid in like 9 months, is just having a dry spell. And he can't have that, right? So they come up with this brilliant plan, and when I say they, it's totally Rockstar. Comes up with this plan. They are going to throw the most epic house party of all time. They're going to invite all the people from the right cliques. It's going to be a wonderful hodgepodge of humans, and they're just going to get wild. Except somehow, this ends up conjuring a demon called the party animal, and it gets weird from there. It gets weird in a good way from there. They just go off the walls. But pick this book up. It is so much fun. Cena does a great job. John, I mean, make sure I can show this page, but you get all kinds of cool stuff. It's very much Cena Grace's art. If you've seen them, the levity in this book is super fun. There's a cat that's a stray and also a person that pops up out of nowhere for no reason, just because, named Meow Meow, but also smokes cigarettes and gets in trouble, but also turns back into the house and has a litter box. So it's weird. I love this book. The characters are insane, and it's the kind of life that you like, somebody like me from Arkansas just kind of imagines happens in West Hollywood, and it's this distilled into a wonderful story. So thank you so much, Cena, for making this book. I had a blast. It's going to be a book that I'm going to end up reading again. It's the cookbook to the perfect party might have been my favorite page. So go check it out. You can get it all in one nice little almost trade, because it's not a super long story, but it's cool.
Almost like a prestige format.
Right.
Yeah.
And look how cute Cena is in his little bio. Look how adorable.
Yeah, I pinged Cena this week because I really have been enjoying the Gotham Girl backups in Detective, and actually Gotham Girl Interrupted is the name of the arc. So been really enjoying those, and he has a lot of stuff brewing. So hopefully we can get him back on. Since we're talking about DC Comics, I may as well stay there. So for my second book,
he created his own segue.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, baby. I still think of this as radio. We are a little too early in doing this episode because many of the Pride books for this month have either just come out or are about to come out. Many of the Pride covers. And I was just thinking about you guys have seen Nicola Scott's swimsuit cover for Nightwing.
Yes,
right?
Dear God, yes.
Yeah,
we've seen that.
ended up.
I'm cosplaying that Heroes.
You can pull it off, unlike the rest of us. So
Just
we
for
don't-
us or for
Yeah.
everyone,
Oh,
it's
shut
up
up.
to you.
All right, so I don't have DC's Pride book, which came out on Tuesday in hand. Apparently, Kevin Conroy's coming out story in there is getting all these accolades, and it's supposed to be a wonderful little nugget in there. But one book I can talk about, and it's also not one that's been bannered as a Pride book, which you have seen consistently with Superman, Son of Kal-El, and the very recent all ages book, the Galaxy. This one is not bannered, but I think there's a very important development in this book, which shows how far we've come. And the one I want to talk about is Blood Syndicate Season 1, Number 1 from DC and Milestone Media. Now, in the 90s, Blood Syndicate, you couldn't really necessarily call them a superhero team. It was more like a superhero gang because of the backgrounds of the various characters when the Big Bang happened in the Milestone universe. Many of these were members and in their terminologies, remnants of multiple street gangs who gained superpowers during the Big Bang event and decided that they were going to use them generally for a greater purpose. But it wasn't a smooth transition. There was a lot of infighting. There was a lot of leaderless times. Their methods were, in many ways unsustainable. It was a pretty interesting series. Not a great series by my estimation, but an interesting one. One of the characters was Fade. Carlos Quinones was his real name, and it's important to note that in this first issue, they are not using their code names at this point. It's too early in the game. Apart from Holocaust, who was one of the major characters, and it's basically out of the characters the most consistent from the earlier incarnation of Milestone that preceded this reboot. There's a very interesting development with him. In the original series, he was a deeply closeted gay man, absolutely in love with one of the other members, Rolando, whose codename was Tech Nine. And that was a thread that ran through many, many issues and many, many storylines. What we have here, and I think this is more the time that we live in than anything else. Carlos is out and proud and funny, and I love seeing a simple development like that. He still is, in terms of his sexuality, he's still the same character, but his circumstances are so different. And also, that ties into some of the other circumstances. The Big Bang, though it is a factor, um, is not the event that really brings out what these characters are. It's really 9/11 and the aftermath of that, which is, I think, a really interesting development. And like some of the other Milestone works, it's a blending of old and new in the creative capacity. The writer is Jeffrey Thorne, who is currently writing the current Green Lantern series, but the artist is by the veteran Milestone and the original Milestone artist Chris Cross. So you kind of have that one step in the past, one step in the present. And even saying like one step in the past does it a disservice, because I don't think Chris Cross's work was ever this beautiful as it was back then. And just one depiction of soldiers there, it's just so nicely handled.
You can still tell it's him, but he's gotten out of that night. Like he set the 90s where they belong, and he's moved on from there. He looks amazing.
Yeah,
I didn't know you were reading these.
Yeah, no, well, I read everything. And also, what's interesting is this is the first, this and Duo are the first of the new Milestone books that are not immediately available digitally. Initially, you had that with DC Universe Infinite. Yeah, so with this and with Duo, which is effectively a new creation, those are print first. I mean, they're day and date in terms of digital, but if you have the DC Universe Infinite, you're still gonna have to wait. Like, I think at this point 6 months. It's been cut down significantly, but they're not automatically available the day of release. And Caleb, there was a very you line in this because, as I said, Fade Carlos, he's out and proud, and uh, they are talking about some of the other characters in the Milestone universe that have surfaced at this point, like Icon. And
Yeah.
and Carlos describes Icon as a chocolate waterfall, and he'd love to drown in it. And that I don't know, man. I thought of you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So not a perfect first issue. I could have used a little more resolution at the end. Even if you're doing a story with an extended arc of 6 issues, there are ways to end the narrative of a first issue and ways that you shouldn't. And this kind of fell in a bucket that I think is among the shouldn'ts. But I think it's a promising start. And again, just what occurred with this one particular character, Fade, was so encouraging to see. And it just feels like, this is the blood syndicate of the present time, and that's an outgrowth of that, of someone being able to be more in touch with their sexuality and more out in public about that than a previous incarnation.
Yeah. The modernity of these books have been real. I mean, all of them, Icon and Rocket, Static, all of them have been wonderful in that regard. Taking these characters and bringing them to a more, I think some might call it an intersectional place. I thought that was cool. One of my favorite things about these books, though, are the 2 pages in the back that they dedicate, or at least have dedicated, to the street art of these characters, milestone street art that you can find in different cities. And the spotlight on these young street artists it's amazing. The talent there is just so rich. It's really cool. And
in terms of the original series, I think we should also mention that it was, for the most part, written by Ivan Velez Jr., who was an out and proud Latino. And he has a memoir. Since we've been talking about memoir, I have a copy of it over there called Tales of the Closet, 1987 to 1993. And if you can seek that out, since we are talking about LGBTQ memoirs a lot, with many of the works that we've talked about tonight, that is worth investigating. Very soon. All right, well, I guess we're going to start wrapping this up, and when we wrap an episode of the Comic Book Bears up, we do so with a segment we call the Woofs of the Week. In the bear community, when you find a fellow attractive, you woof at him, and we do something similar here where we woof at something that may be a comic book, but it also may be a film or a TV program or a charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener, or in this case, viewer, may be interested in sampling. I'll start as I always do with Steve. Steve, what is your woof of the week?
Well, first off, I did want to make a little comment here because earlier, Bill, I think you had posted something about, I guess what not to do when bears are encountered in Yellowstone. I think it was put out by the National Park Service, and they specifically state that bears will woof at you if they are ready to potentially pounce. So it could just be that they're nervous around you, or that they're getting ready to to attack. So
it's nice to see, but we also, I think we are
confirmed.
But I also think we are honor bound to signify what is the funniest part of what is from a federal agency is in their recommendations about dealing with a possible bear encounter. Do not run up and push the bear, and do not push a slower friend down, even if you feel the friendship has run its course.
Thank you, National Park Service.
Thank you, National Park
Service, very much
for the wolf clarification. Also for that, which was a literal spit take for me.
I thought that was great. The whole thing was great.
Reminds me of my dad. My dad used to say that I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you. I can make another kid.
Ooh. Oh well. Hey. So my woof this week is to nobody's surprise a TV show, and it's one that's on a service that I think nobody really has, but will probably be forced to if they are HBO Max subscribers, and that is Discovery Plus, home of every reality series that you never wanted to see, but it's all there for you. So Discovery Plus also does do original series, and one of the big ones that they just came out this month for Pride Month is The Book of Queer. And The Book of Queer is kind of a mix of drunk history and horrible histories, and just lots of pride. Tons of humor, lots of really great cameos from well-known names in the queer community, enacting, reenacting, and talking about gay and lesbian and queer figures from history. So you get sort of who the first trans identified trans people were, who the first openly gay people were, etc. All the way back through early history to today. So it's a lot of fun. You'll recognize a lot of people there. It's on, I believe, Wednesdays. The episodes drop on Discovery Plus. If you don't have Discovery Plus, well, eventually you'll be forced to have it if you want HBO Max. So, prepare. Put it on your list for when you do get it. You can watch it. But if you do have Discovery Plus, definitely check it out.
Yeah, I think Discovery Plus's reach is bigger than you think, because I think it's I think the subscriptions go at this. I think Disney Plus has more than Netflix now, but I think it goes Disney Plus, Netflix, HBO Max, Paramount Plus, and then I think it's either like fifth or sixth. It's
interesting.
A little more, at least in an article that I read. I don't know.
That would be surprising.
It's definitely more than some other series services like Epix. Yeah. That is
and Hulu's up there as well. That I think is helpful.
But also with there's so many people that have the Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN
the package
bundle. Yeah, so I don't know if those numbers feed into Disney Plus's numbers, and I really don't care. So let's go over to Caleb. Caleb, what is your Wolf of the Week?
Actually, I have a twofer, and I'm going to make them real quick. The first one, speaking of Hulu, there's a new show on Hulu called Fire Island, and I mentioned that by the way of saying,
I'm struggling with this. Is it a series or is it a movie?
It's a movie.
That's what I thought. It's a movie. We had a fight over this.
Who was right?
Of course I'm right. Okay.
It's a movie.
Okay. The reason I bring this up is because the costume designs were done by my former coworker and good friend and fellow bear, an actual bear, not somebody like me who just appropriates the culture, but David Tabbert. And so I want to say congratulations to Dave. I miss working with you. I love you, buddy. Can't wait till I see you again. And you're doing amazing things. He was able to sit down and get interviewed by New Now Next. His name is running in the credits of the movie. It's pretty great for somebody who's known that guy for 6 or 7 years now. To see him doing all these amazing things, and I love you, you big lug. I miss dude is 6'7" and 300 pounds of muscle, and is just one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet. He's
you got to make an introduction for.
Oh, I can make it happen. He's so wonderful. So congratulations. Yeah. The second wolf, and what was going to be my main wolf, because it is talking about an actual thing and not a person, is a television series by way of a comic, and I've spoke about the comic before on the show because it's a graphic novel series by Alice Oseman called Heartstopper. But it's now blowing up everywhere on Netflix because the first season dropped, and it is amazing, and it's getting a lot of traction. People are loving it, and I would encourage you all to go watch it. It's very lighthearted. It's got some heavier moments, but at the end of the day, it's just a pure show. It's very pure. It's about these two teenage boys who get the chance to date, to do their relationship is not sexual. It's about coming out in the world, and it's just genuinely delightful. It doesn't shy away from any things. It talks about coming out and the hardships. It talks about homophobia. It talks about the scary parts of being a teenager, but it's just genuinely delightful. And like I said, it's in a world where we have to hear everything about quote unquote groomers and this, that, and the other. This is just about these two guys that meet, and they get a chance to figure out who they are in a supportive environment in the way that most of us didn't. and they get to figure out how to date at the same time that every other straight kid gets to figure out how to date. And there are some people that I can already, like, I've actually seen it, so, but they roll their eyes and are like, oh, another gay show about young white guys. The television series prominently features a black trans woman who is their same age and their friend. One of the main characters is not only do they have a black trans woman, one of the main characters is a straight Asian man. One of the main characters is not explicit, but he's like, the actual actor is of Middle Eastern descent, and one of the characters is asexual, is just ace, is just chilling, living his little ace life, and just content and reading all kinds of amazing books. And so there is such a he's adorable. There's such a variety of people in this series, and it's wholesome. I don't know how else to describe it as wholesome. It will make you smile. I don't get a chance to watch TV. Roger and I have watched the first series like 4 times already. And they have greenlit, not joking, because the episodes are only like 20 minutes apiece, right? Like you can catch them in snippets. Pretty sure.
That's like the anti-Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Oh my God, those are long.
They have greenlit seasons 2 and 3. So we are getting more to this story. It's not a one and done thing. We're getting more of it. It is wonderful. Please watch the show. Support it. Tell your friends. It's great. I love it, man. Like there's one episode that I'm just like, it melts me into a soft, blubbering mess. I just sit on the floor and cry. Like I just pick up my dog and just like wipe my tears with this cute little puppy.
Okay. One thing I do have to ask before we wrap up the show, Caleb, because there are various conversations that go on. Okay. And we have an active conversation with your good friend Craig.
Okay.
And we were just wondering, have you ever had a pierogi?
A pierogi? Like the sandwich?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Craig
the dumpling
has the Polish dumpling. Yeah.
Yeah.
He knows what he's talking. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Well, I say I don't know what else to call it. Yeah, it's like a little thing.
Yeah. It's like
it's a little dumpling, so like a pot sticker.
Yeah. So in our Star Wars thread, apparently Craig has not had a pierogi, so you have to fix that for him.
We're good. Yeah, now I'll see if we can hook some.
Just get him some Mrs. T's. Get him some Mrs. T's.
Can't have none of that. Yeah, don't get into that.
If you broil Mrs. T's, they're fine. Boiled, they're terrible. Boiled, they're terrible. But if you broil them, they're good. Yeah.
I tend to fry them or saute, and they.
Yeah. So with the last name, I don't have Polish in me, but there was Slavic stuff is a hop, skip, and a jump. So. So that is what a weird tangent I got on, but I just wanted to make sure that we got that out there for him.
Before we continue, David Toby did mention there is a television series called Fire Island, which is a reality show that lasted 1 season. I do remember that. That was it was like a gay sort of Real Housewives, whatever. It's a gay thing. Where they're all on Fire Island and just,
I remember
being
that.
gay. Yeah, it was on Bravo or something, or
that was
Logo.
A hot mess. I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
my Woof of the Week is I guess it could be considered gay because you do have artists like Elton John and Rob Halford that are represented, but for me, I spend a lot of time with some of the free services like Pluto TV and Tubi and the Roku channel and whatever the free content is on. What's the Voodoo? Voodoo. So you do. Yeah. Voodoo. So I spend a lot of time on those platforms, and the contract that Eagle Rock Media has with FilmRise is concluding. So all of those classic albums, documentaries that are on Tubi and Pluto and all these sources are going to be taken off at the end of the month. So you only have a few weeks there to get in your viewing on that, and it's a very, very well crafted series. I just grabbed some of the examples that I have the home media versions for. Judas Priest, British Steel just fell on the floor, but here's the Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bullocks, Nevermind by Nirvana, the Who's Next. I have versions of them on VHS, like The Number of the Beast and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road over there. So it's been an active series since the late 90s, but they are almost universally a very well constructed series. And I just wanted to alert people that you do have a fairly short window if you want to see this material for free. They've been on there for like I think 3 years, but the contract that, as I said, Eagle, what is it? What's in it? Eagle Rock. I got it right. Eagle Rock Entertainment
Eagle Rock.
and FilmRise is concluded, so you have a fairly short window now to watch them. And I think they have something like 30 episodes up for free on those platforms. So seek them out. Most of them are worth watching.
I mean, I have some. I've seen some. So like Number of the Beast, the Fleetwood Mac, Rumors, classic albums, Tears for Fears, Suede. I mean, there's
some of the more recent ones, but some of the archive ones like Bob Marley's Catch a Fire,
British Steel,
and some of them are like acts that I don't really have a hell of a lot of affinity for, but it's still such a well constructed documentary series that I sit through and enjoy it, like Screamadelica by Primal Scream and Stars by Simply Red. So yeah, seek that stuff out if you're a music fan, because one of the best ones is on Duran Duran's Rio. You will be amazed at the musicality of that group from the original source recordings. There's something about the individual members and their tracks where it's a band I've even myself as a fan for 40 years have underrated them as musicians and think of them very differently now because of that documentary. So if you dig music, it's worth jumping into some of this stuff. And again, you're talking about a range of artists from Buddy Holly up to, as you had mentioned, Suede. So
Stevie Wonder,
Stevie Wonder,
Jimi Hendrix. I mean, you got everybody.
Beatles Pet Sounds. The Beach Boys Pet Sounds is in the mix. Transformer by Lou Reed. There's a lot of stuff there for people. Seek that out.
And they're all good.
All right.
They're all good.
Yep. All right, so we're wrapping this one up. Again, we are the Comic Book Bears Podcast. You can find us on the Facebook as Comic Book Bears Podcast. You can find us on the Twitter and the Tumblr and the Instagram as Comic Book Bears. If you want to listen to us, please do so by downloading us through Apple Podcasts. You can listen to us through Stitcher Radio and many of the other podcatching platforms. If you want to write to us, please do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. If you are watching us through the Facebook Live system, thank you for joining us tonight. If you are watching us on a time delay on YouTube, please leave a review. We are still trying to raise our profile on that particular platform, and we certainly thank you for joining us for this episode. We'll be back next week because of our particular schedule. So though we were delayed by 2 weeks, we make it up next week. So hope to see you then. Until next time, I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
And I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
You're going to hear a woof and an explosion. We'll be back real soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.